Lines have been long outside the Sewage and Water Board office as thousands of residents desperately try to keep water flowing into their homes.
The agency says it will start shutting off water tomorrow for customers whose bills remain unpaid, even though the city council asked it to hold off until it gets a better handle on those billing problems. Residents by the thousands have complained the bills are inaccurate and unfair, leaving critics wondering if many of the billing errors resulted in estimates generated by a billing software called Cogsdale. Investigator Katie Moore reports.
Lauren Ward's family of 4 moved into this uptown apartment a year ago.
We did not get a bill for 6 months. We moved in here August 1st. We got our first bill in January.
And when that bill arrived, they were charged for 6 months worth of water, more than 31,000 gallons.
If the meter wasn't read in 6 months, then what is this estimate derived from?
Ward's billing problems didn't end there. 2 months later, the Sewage and Water Board charged her for 19,300 gallons of water. That's the amount of water in an average-sized swimming pool. They live in a 3-bedroom apartment.
We don't have a swimming pool. We don't run any excess water. We're not bath takers. We take showers.
You can see the problem on this little graph on her water bill. The charge for 6 months' worth of water looks like 1 month's usage. And that's how the Sewage and Water Board computers apparently saw it too. The billing software may have used that sky-high bill to calculate her average usage and to estimate her usage in March.
It's like the snowball habit of my daughter Campbell here. The employees at the stand know every time we come, she gets a kitty-sized snowball. Well, imagine if one time they charged me for this size. The super extra large, only in reality, she only ate the kitty cup. Then imagine if the next time they messed up again, this time charging me for a large, because it's the average between the super extra large and the kitty cup. But again, she only ate the kitty cup, and that's all I should have paid for.
Ward's bills aren't the only ones that show estimates that factor in past problem bills. Meet Wanda Jones.
Has been under construction since Katrina.
Yes, since 2005.
Using zero water. There's no sink, no faucets, no toilets, no hookups. In January of 2017, a broken meter led the Sewage and Water Board to charge her for using 900 gallons of water there. Bills show she got a credit on a future bill for that amount. 3 months later, though, in April, that bogus bill affected her account again, as the computer used it to estimate her usage. Again, it should be zero.
That's the only thing that's killing me, these estimates.
Last year, a quarter of all the bills the Sewage and Water Board issued were based on estimated usage. Roger Colton is a consultant who works with utilities across the U.S. and Canada.
When you get up in the mid-single figures, 5-6%, that's a really high rate of estimated bills. If you're above 10% or if you're above 15%, that's extraordinary.
In January and February of this year, records show the Sewage and Water Board's estimated billing rate topped 50%, with more estimated bills going out than bills based on actual meter reads. 52% in January, 53% in February.
When you're billing 10, 15 or more percent of your customers based on estimates, and particularly consecutive estimates, then that is a lack of reasonable performance.
That poor performance at the beginning of this year corresponded with a spike in the number of complaints from customers about problem bills in March that you can see here on the Sewage and Water Board website. That site attributes the spike to the hard freeze in January. But since the utility started using the Cogsdale billing software in October of 2016, it has received nearly 30,000 complaints from customers about problem bills.
If you had a bad read the month before, and then that is a part of your estimation method, then the estimate will be high. So that is a part of the reason why we went to just a flat 100 gallons a day.
Now, if your meter can't be read, you get charged for a flat 3,000 gallons a month, the same way the utility estimated bills before spending $10 million to implement that new billing system.
People can live in their homes without electricity. In most states, a home that lacks water and sewer service is deemed to be uninhabitable.
The board has said 17,000 delinquent customers are at risk for having their water shut off. But until Tuesday, that number included Ward. 2 weeks ago, she received this letter saying the Sewerage and Water Board isn't responsible for her sky-high estimates from the beginning of the year. That little graph tells a different story, though.
When you look at this graph, it appears as though something happened between April and May of this year. Did you all find a leak or have a plumber come? Nothing changed?
Nothing.
The utility stopped using the Cogsdale calculations for estimates in May, the same time that Ward's bills went closer to normal. Still, her partner says she was told this week they needed to pay their $1,500 bill for the past year or their water could be shut off.
Do you have an extra $1,500 lying around?
No, absolutely not.
Bill estimation is an art form, and there is frankly no utility that likes to do it, so we need to get to a point where we're not.
And while the agency has made great progress boosting the number of meter reads in the last 3 months, with just 8% of bills generated from estimates in June.
That's where we need to get, is to read meters every month for every customer.
Meantime, customers gathered to pray to keep their water on Wednesday, with others lining up around the block, a sign the utility has a list of problems as long as that line of things that still need to be fixed. Katie Moore, Eyewitness News.
Well, board spokespeople said this week if you have a high bill and then a high estimate, you need to dispute both of those bills. We did ask the Sewerage and Water Board for an interview for this story and received no response.
It was the 1970s when a young Richard Windman was playing basketball behind Jesuit High School and befriended a janitor named George Modica. And it was on the grounds of the elite mid-city school where for years, he says, he became the victim of sexual abuse at the hands of Modica and priests. Records show he wasn't alone.
What you set up as far as the background of the matter, I would describe as clearly confirmed.
That voice is the late Father Raymond Fitzgerald, Jesuit's former president. It's a recording that captures a conversation in 2012. Documents show that discussion led to a $450,000 settlement. Windman on Thursday declined an interview request from Eyewitness News, but he tells our partners at The Advocate that the abuse happened everywhere from the chapel to a maintenance office. One particularly disturbing allegation is that a Jesuit priest, the late Reverend Cornelius Carr, witnessed a rape but did nothing to stop it. Instead, Windman tells The Advocate Carr told him to relax and began to pleasure himself. Windman didn't attend Jesuit, but grew up nearby in the 4200 block of Dehemicourt Street. In the recording, Fitzgerald acknowledges Modica regularly lured boys from the neighborhood to the school.
The fact that Modica would bring neighborhood children onto campus was confirmed. And by and large, for Modica's hours of employment tended to be after school, so when the building would not have been heavily occupied.
The first time the settlement came to light was when The Advocate reported it Wednesday night. While Jesuit High School is a part of the Archdiocese of New Orleans, it's run separately by the Jesuit Order. That leaves a gray area for how the settlement should have been reported. Author Jason Berry, a Jesuit graduate who spent years reporting on sex abuse in the church, says it's better for everyone when these situations aren't hidden away.
We need light. The more you keep these cases covered up, the more people are in ignorance.
Windman approached the school in 2012. He told Fitzgerald he wanted to move on from a dark chapter in his past.
All my life, that since we started this process, do you recognize it's been kind of hard on me? Oh, yeah. And my family? Well. And I don't know what else to say in that regard.
People who do know me, they know I'm telling the truth.
Mark Finn has spent much of his adult life in prison. He's an admitted career criminal. Psycho is tattooed on his neck. But he says that tough exterior holds a dark secret he says he's been keeping for decades.
That is the only thing in my life of being feared of was just seeing him. Even hearing his name. I hate even hearing his name now.
Hello, I'm Sheriff Jack Strain.
His name, former St. Tammany Parish Sheriff Jack Strain. Finn is Strain's close family friend. He says when he was 6 years old, Strain, 7 years his senior, started molesting him.
Yeah, sick stuff. And I remember the stuff. I remember everything.
Finn claims from age 6 to age 12, the abuse escalated from molestation to anal rape. He's now 49 years old, but says the details of the alleged abuse have yet to dim.
When I come in the room, he'd have me tie the doors. That was part of the deal. He'd have these spools of yarn. One of them was pink, one of them was green.
Finn describes Strain pouring lotion and oil over his buttocks, seeing blood in the bathtub after it was over. Finn says he has spoken at length with state and federal prosecutors, and sources say he is one of at least 4 alleged victims at the heart of the sex crimes case against Strain. The former sheriff has not been charged with any crime, although multiple sources and charging documents in the work release corruption case name the former St. Tammany Parish sheriff as the target of that investigation.
That right there is sick what happened to me, you know, and I'm not the only one. I just hope justice is done soon, so I can put this behind my life and move forward, and it doesn't happen to somebody else.
Finn admits he can be a loose cannon with anger management issues. That drug and alcohol use led to a long rap sheet and more than 20 years spent incarcerated. But Finn says Boo Boo, as Finn called Strain, made doing time easier on him, with much of it spent in Strain's jail or under Strain's control at the work release program that is now at the center of the federal corruption case. Finn says he essentially had a private apartment he built above the tool shop at what many in St. Tammany call the halfway house.
I didn't live bad at the halfway house, okay? You know, but it still doesn't take what he did to me. You could give me everything in the world, but let me tell you one thing, I'm not going to be happy until he is locked up.
In the late 90s, Finn says Strain twice attempted sex again.
He came pick me up in the halfway house, brought me to a camp in Abita, stuck his hand on my leg and then grabbed my crotch, and I grabbed his hand. I told him I don't do that, and he stopped.
He describes a similar encounter a couple of years later when Strain picked him up to go fishing. The alleged abuse, he says, broke pieces of him that he's still struggling to fix. Just 4 days out of prison, Finn says he wants to tell the world and get it off his chest.
I've been waiting for this all my life, really. I'm just tired of it.